Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. To our professor, Sir Liu, we are the Group 10, and we are here to report about Kenneth Pargament and his contribution to psychology. Before we proceed the reporting proper, allow me to introduce some members. We have Amistoso Mishrem, yours truly, Manatad Kihara, and Saniko Johilin. May I pass on the floor to Manatad Kihara to begin the reporting.
Okay, so let's begin our reporting proper. So let's discuss Kenneth Pargament's biography. So Kenneth Pargament is a principal investigator, professor, and psychologist. He was born on November 3, 1950 and now 73 na siya. He lived in Washington, D.C. Kabalo mo guys nga si Kenneth Pargament kay buhay pa. Yes, buhay pa siya until now. Ang name sa mother is Florence B. Pargament and iya father is Saul Pargament. Naapod siya ay duha ka igsoon, si Jeffrey M. Pargament and si Marcia Goldmark Pargament. And syempre yung wife nga si Aileen Sue Pargament and ilang duha ka anak nga si Jonathan Pargament and Benjamin Pargament. So let's have timeline. In 1970 to 1971, Kenneth Pargament is a research assistant in the Laboratory of Socio-Environmental Studies during 1970 to 1971. It's likely that Pargament was involved in studying how social environmental factors intersect with individuals' religious or spiritual beliefs and practices to influence their coping mechanism. In 1972, he graduated with a degree of Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. In 1975, Pargament did an internship in Clinical Community Psychology in Rutgers Medical School. In 1976 to 1977, Kenneth Pargament indeed worked as a lecturer in the Department of Psychology at the University of Maryland from 1976 to 1977. And also, he is well known for his research on the psychology of religion and spirituality. In 1977, he got his clinical community psychology in University of Maryland. During 1978 to 1979, Kenneth Pargament served as an affiliate clinical psychologist at the Community Psychiatry Program within the Henry Pepys Clinic at Johns Hopkins University. In 1979, he is a professor of psychology at Bowling Green State University where he has been on the faculty since 1979. In 1981, Kenneth Pargament has been married for 3 years to his wife Aileen Sue Pargament. In 2013, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Letters from Pepperdine University. Next slide, please. Let's have accomplishment of Kenneth Pargament. He has published over 300 articles on religion, spirituality, and health, and authored The Psychology of Religion and Coping, Theory, Research, Practice, and Spiritually Integrated Psychotherapy, Understanding and Addressing the Sacred. He was recently cited as one of the 50 most influential living psychologists in the world today. He received the William James Award for Excellence in Researching the Psychology of Religion from Division 36 of APA and the Virginia Stud Sexton Mentoring Award from APA for guiding and encouraging others in the field. So that's all in my part. So let's call Miss Sophia to discuss the works.
Kenneth Pargament have a lot of books that he co-authored and published. He also have several seminars which you can see online in which he talks about religion and coping mechanisms. There are 5 major works he contributed in psychology. First, we have Working with Spiritual Struggles in Psychotherapy. This book combines state-of-the-art research, clinical insights, and vivid case illustrations. It guides clinicians to understand spiritual struggles as critical crossroads in life that can lead to brokenness and decline, or to go greater wholeness and growth. Pargament defines spiritual struggles as experiences of tension, conflict, and strain on whatever people viewed sacred. In this book, the main character is Nancy, a 50-year-old woman that struggles because of the death of her miracle baby, Lily. She called Lily the gift of God. After the death of her child, she experienced different kinds of struggle. With this book, it guides to understand spiritual struggles as critical crossroads, as we said before. It helps to culturally responsive and help clients use them as springboards to change. This book is co-authored by Julie S. Exlin, published last 2021. Next, we have Psychology, Religion, and Spirituality, Volume 1, Context Theory and Psychology, Religion, and Spirituality, Volume 2, An Applied Psychology of Religion and Spirituality, published last 2013. The goal of this handbook is to provide thorough coverage of the current state of the field, what we know about religions and spirituality and their roles in human functioning, as well as what we do not know, and how we can apply this knowledge to advance the welfare of people individually and collectively. In this book, which highlights the first book highlights the unique resource of religion in the field of prevention. Until now, religious systems has been a largely undertapped resource of talent, energy, care, and physical and financial assets. Religion and prevention in mental health is a significant new volume that lays a general foundation for preventive work in the religious area. It represents a number of reasons for examining religion as a source of aiding prevention and well-being. Next, we have Spiritually Integrated Psychotherapy, Understanding and Addressing the Sacred, published 2011. This volume provides an innovative framework for understanding the role of spirituality in the people's life and its relevance to the work done in psychotherapy. The book encompasses both traditional and non-traditional forms of spirituality. It is grounded in current findings from psychotherapy research and the psychology of religion, and includes a wealth of evocative case material. It offers fresh, practical ideas for creating a spiritual dialogues with clients, assessing spirituality as a part of their problems and solutions, and helping them draw on spiritual resources in times of stress. Next, the Psychology of Religion and Coping, Theory, Research, Practice, published 2001. This volume sensitively interweaves theory, the first-hand accounts, clinical insights, and empirical research. This book underscores the need of greater sensitivity to religion and spirituality in the context of helping relationships, and suggests a range of ways that clinicians may work more effectively with the religious issues in therapy. This volume sensitively interweaves theory, the first-hand accounts, clinical insight, and scientific research. The book underscores the need of greater sensitivity to religion and spirituality in the context of helping relationships, and suggests a range of ways that faith might be used more fully to help people in crisis. Second to the last major works of Kenneth Pargament, we have Forgiveness, Theory, Research, Practice, published 2000. The book outlines crucial issues that must be addressed to advance the state of science in the years to come. The first section provides a historical and conceptual overview, examining definitional problems and giving special attention to religious and cultural influences on how forgiveness is understood and experienced. The biological, developmental, social, and spiritual foundation of forgiveness are then explored. The final section covers application in clinical research and practice, including guidelines for studying and applying forgiveness-based strategies in psychotherapy, counseling, and intervention to promote health. This volume will be endorsed to the broad interdisciplinary audience of researchers, educators, students, and practicing professionals. Lastly, we have Religion and Prevention in Mental Health, Research, Vision, and Action, 1992. This vital book depicts a richness and diversity of religion that shows the interface of religion, well-being, and prevention. The authors dispute the popular notion of religion as damaging to mental health, as well as the idea that religious affiliation is entirely predictive of better mental health. Instead, they focus on a framework of living that religions provide which assist believers in anticipating, avoiding, or modifying problems before they develop. For the human service professionally are willing to build a collaborative relationship with religious systems. For I conclude that these books are like a guide in psychotherapy and aiding. Further, this also helps educators and challenge practitioners. The gist of the book is how spirituality helps people from a well-balanced view of psychology from clinical perspective, which is Kenneth Pargament. So Kenneth Pargament addresses practical issues of providing spirituality integrated therapy and counseling. He said in the books that spirituality cannot be separated from psychotherapy. Without psychotherapy, spirituality cannot be aided, spiritual struggles may worsen. And that ends my part. I may now pass you to Amistoso Mishraim.
Now, after na-talk about nato ang works ni Kenneth Pargament, let us talk about the theory of religion. The religious coping. It is the exploration of how individuals use religious and spiritual resources to cope with life's stresses and crises. So, religion di ay dili siya organization or set of beliefs, but makatabang po din siya for coping with life stresses and crisis. So there are three religious approaches to control and coping. The first is a self-directing approach. People rely on themselves in coping rather than on God. So sa kaning method, ay dili mag-agad ang tao sa higher being, but they are responsible for looking for solutions para makakope with life stresses or para makasolve sa problem. The second approach is the deferring approach. The responsibility for coping is passively deferred to God. So here, sa deferring approach, magsalig ang tao sa higher being. Instead of looking for a solution to solve the problem, they pass the responsibility to a higher being na makasolve ang problem through a higher being or God. Now, the last one is the collaborative approach. The individual and God are both active partners in coping. So, from the word pa lang na collaborative, it means to collaborate. So, a person and God or the higher being are both active partners. So, it means that the person and God are doing a collab to solve a certain problem or to cope with life stress. And after we've tackled about the religious coping, now let's tackle about the RCOPE assessment tool. RCOPE assessment tool or the religious coping method is a comprehensive tool to assess religious coping strategies. It is widely used by researchers and clinicians to understand how individuals use their faith to cope with stress and how these coping mechanisms impact mental health outcomes. Ang RCOPE or the religious coping method assessment tool is used para ma-measure kung unsay gamit sa religion, no? Or how it impacts a person's life. And there are two types and two outcomes for the religious coping. First up is the positive religious coping. In positive religious coping, it identifies a range of positive religious coping strategies such as spiritual support, seeking spiritual guidance, collaborative religious coping, religious forgiveness, and spiritual surrender. And this strategy, it leads to improved emotional well-being, greater resilience, and enhanced mental health. In positive religious coping, kay ang tao, they tend to use the spiritual guidance, like the collaborative religious coping, where they seek connection with a higher being so that makafind sila og way to cope with stress or to find a solution for a problem, and after that masolve ang problem. Okay, in positive religious coping, it is a brighter side, no? Kaya it improves our emotional well-being and it helps us not to enhance our mental health. Now, the second type of religious coping is the negative religious coping. In negative religious coping, it includes spiritual discontent, religious disengagement, and viewing stress or trauma as punishment from a higher power. These negative coping mechanisms can lead to increased anxiety, depression, and other adverse psychological outcomes. Negative religious coping is actually the dark side of religious coping. Since opposite man siya sa positive, and the outcome is sad or it is something that deals with stress, no, that leads to depression, nga makakos nga maguba ang emotional well-being or dili na ma-enhance or dili ma-better ang mental health. Ang positive and negative religious coping are both the types of religious coping method, and ang ilang outcomes sa positive kay improved emotional well-being, while the negative religious coping leads to something like depression or anxiety. Now, let us tackle about religion, or Kenneth Pargament's view about religion. According to Kenneth Pargament, religion is a double-edged sword because it has the capacity to help or to hurt. Pargament stated that religions offer something people can find from no other resource. It is a way of coming to terms with human finitude and frailty. He introduced the concept of religious coping to study how individuals use their faith to navigate and cope with stress adversity. Ang pasabot ani ni Kenneth Pargament ng double-edged sword ang religion, it is because makatabang siya and makaduot or makatabang o duot. In a way nga, let us view this as the negative and the positive religious coping. Diba sa positive religious coping kay it leads to something good, no, like improvement, emotional well-being, enhanced mental health. While on the other hand, sa negative side, para maka-hurt ang religion, in a way nga makakause yaw something like anxiety and depression. Well, according to Pargament, quote unquote, I think of religion as the pathways people take to find significance in their lives. They're pathways that are connected to something sacred, something of deeper value, deeper meaning of transcendence or immanence. This means nga ang religion, dili ra siya organization or group of religious people, but it is a pathway, no, para maka-find og meaning or deep purpose in life, to find significance in life. And according to Pargament, being part of religion, I think, is a way of defining who you are, defining identity, also defining who you're not. I think it means to be part of a social community, and it provides a sense of connectedness in the searching for these solutions. And religion is not a pathway or double-edged sword lang. It is something that can be used to define yourself or your identity, in which ma-discover ka of something new about yourself. Now, there are purposes of religion in coping. And first up is the spiritual, personal closeness with God, a sense of meaning and purpose in life, feeling of hope about the future. In spiritual, okay, it is a purpose, no, of religious coping, which is spiritual. Okay, it makes you feel connected with God. It is like finding, no, a significance in their lives. Okay, because of this purpose, maka-find ang tao or ang person of something na spiritual na connectedness with God. Okay, it is religion biya. It is something that we hail or we pray for a higher being. The next one is the self-development. In self-development, there is help in feeling good about myself, feeling more in control of my life, help in improving myself as a person. In religion, dili ra di ay siya social organization, but it is something nga makadiscover ka og self-development. Kay in religion di ba maka-find man ta to define our identity, and in religion there are times jud nga makaabot ta ng self-development nga na something nga ma-enhance within us. Next one is resolve. It helps in solving my problems, a sense of comfort and peace. In resolve naman, in religious coping, di ba magamit man nato ang religion to find a way to cope with life or stress, or makasolve or maka-find og solution for our problems. Now, the fourth one is sharing. It helps in expressing my feelings, a sense of closeness and belongingness with other people. In religion, naman siya social community, and na siya self-development, which you can find your self-identity, but you can actually share, with other people, your thoughts, your insights, or your questions, or like your problems. But if dili ka makashare ani, you can share it with God, like through a prayer. You can talk with God, bro. And lastly, the last purpose of religion coping is restraint. Help in keeping my emotions or reactions under control. So it is important na I restraint, Okay, it is like a self-regulation. You can control your emotions without having outbursts, Na overflowing emotions. And these are the purposes of religion in coping. And after that, we've tackled about the religion or the view of Kenneth Pargament of religion. Now let me call on Mrs. Jovelyn Sanigo to tackle about spirituality.
So thank you, Miss Mizraim. So let's talk about spirituality of Kenneth Pargament. So according to Kenneth Pargament spirituality is a search for a sacred, a process through which people seek to discover, hold on to, and when necessary, transform whatever they hold sacred in their lives. Second is spirituality is the yearning for something sacred, yearning for something of broader and deeper value that may be, again, a very basic human motivation. And last, that seek out and form a relationship with something larger and deeper than themselves. So, one example of Kenneth Pargament's theory of spirituality is his concept of religious coping which examines how individuals draw on their religious beliefs, practices, and community support to navigate stressful life events. So Pargament identified various religious coping strategies which magsik support from a higher power. The next is magfind kuno sila meaning or purpose in adversity through religious beliefs and engaging in religious rituals or practices to cope with stress. He also explored how religious coping can influence psychological outcomes such as resilience, adjustments, and overall well-being across different cultural and religious contexts. So, kasagaran pa man sa mga tao karon is na-adapt gyapon nila ang mga nauso sa una kung unsa pa maagi nga pag-cope sa ilang mga stress or unsa pa na nga ilang ni na feel or mga sakit. Di ba kasagaran pa man karon nga tao is kanang mas moduol pa sila sa mga albularyo kaysa sa muduol sila sa like kanang doctors o inana. So next please. So their spiritual coping refers to how individuals use spiritual resources to manage life's challenges. This can include religious rituals, prayers, meditation, spiritual support from a faith community, or a personal sense of connection with a higher power. So, according to kanang Pargament, spiritual coping kuno as it could be seeking comfort and strength through prayer kuno. Kanang ang sa una kuno is kanang through sa pag-seek nila comfort is kanang muduol gani sila sa Ginoo gani mas muduol sila sa kanang sa panay kanang sa mas piliyon nila mag-ampok sa ilang para masik ang ilang o sa mga na-feel nila like inana. Then this practice can provide individuals with a sense of connection to something greater than themselves, fostering resilience and inner peace. So next is there are two types of one-man spiritual coping of Kenneth Pargament, which is positive spiritual coping and also negative spiritual coping. So first, positive spiritual coping. This involves constructive approaches that draw upon spiritual beliefs and practices to find meaning, comfort, and strength. So, ang spiritual coping ko no, ang positive spiritual coping ko no is, dira nila ma-find ang meaning sa ilang kinabuhi, also kanang sa pag-comfort, like nana, and also ang mga strength nila. So, next is ang negative spiritual coping. This involves responses that may reflect spiritual struggles or conflicts. This can include feeling abandoned or punished by God, experiencing religious guilt, or having spiritual doubts that asan ni? Exacerbate stress. So, ang negative spiritual coping ko no, kay this involves strategies that can maglag ko lang. So, balik ha. So, negative spiritual coping ko no, kay this involves strategies that can exacerbate distress rather than alleviate it. An example could be using religion or spiritual to blame oneself or others for the situation. Like anang imo i-blame mo imong kagalingon or ang uban sa usa ka sitwasyon. Then leading to feeling of guilt or resentment. Like mag-guilty ka sa like for example kanang nakagibuhat nga wala nimo nauyanan is kanang mag-guilt kasi mo kagalingon. Next is it could be engaging in religious or spiritual practices in a dogmatic way, which may increase feelings of isolation or judgment rather than providing comfort or support. Kani kuno kay nag-engage kuno sila kanang murag kanang masayop ka then i-judge ka sa uban without knowing kung unsay na feel nimo unsay hinungdan sa imong nabuhat like nana day gidiretso din kanilag kanang judge like nana instead nga mag-provide sila sa imuha og comfort or kanang tagaan man kanilag kanang tambag para kanang masakto nimo ang imong sayop nga nabuhat. So, as a conclusion of this spirituality ni Kenneth Pargament no is spirituality underscores its multifaceted nature, highlighting both positive and negative aspects of spiritual coping. So, his research emphasizes the importance of understanding how individuals utilize spirituality to navigate life's challenges, while also recognizing the potential pitfalls of certain coping strategies. So, Pergament's contribution have deepened our understanding of the complex interplay between spirituality, coping mechanism, and also psychological well-being. So that's the end of our discussion. Thank you.